Hey everybody, Chuck G Violin back after a little bit of a hiatus, so to speak. I have been unprecedentedly busy with performing this spring, and been out of town a lot and just have not been able to make a lot of content. So my season, anyway, wraps up next week, so hopefully I'll be able to do some more content here on more of a regular basis. But today we are going to work on planting. This will probably be a two-part video. We'll see how far we get today. I don't want to make this a 3-hour long video, but we're going to work on planting. So let's quickly review what we've done so far with our build a golf course from scratch. And that is, we've laid out all of these holes. We've made our plot. We've flattened everything out. We have laid out all 18 holes in differing directions and lengths. And we've also indicated where water is going to eventually go. Then we went ahead and did this first hole. We did the elevation work. We did bunkers. We did green. And we did some terrain painting, although there's none here. We've deleted it all, but we've also done some surface weathering. And now it's time to talk about planting. And before we get going, please, if you enjoy this series, want to see some more, drop a like, hit subscribe. If you don't want to miss any more videos, I would appreciate it. It definitely will help things along with getting more people to see these videos and hopefully build great golf courses. So let's talk about planting. Planting, we're going to talk only about vegetation today. We're not going to talk about clubhouses, ball washers, cars, all that other kind of extra stuff. That's going to be in a separate video, although I did put a bench right here. Where are you at? There you are. But we're not going to talk about planting that stuff today. We're only going to be working on vegetation. That other stuff that I just mentioned, your ball washers and clubhouses and putting greens and all that good stuff is going to be in a later video about polishing and publishing your golf course. But today we're going to talk about planting, and that means trees. And most courses have trees on them. Links courses in, the UK generally do not. But not all courses in the UK are links. There are some parkland golf courses, heathland golf courses that have trees. You can see in our background, there are trees. So here's kind of the basics of our planting. We're in the object tab down here, you can see. And we've got all these different things we can plant. Again, we're only going to be talking about our nature, and that means trees. We've got trees, rocks, plants, und grass. And we're going to start with the big ones, trees. Now, when you do this and you click on trees, every single tree in the world pops up. And I personally don't think the Sakatcha tree is going to fit on our kind of more Midwest United States or even, Parkland, UK or Europe golf course. So we don't want those. And, you can hit the bumper buttons to get from, screen to screen here. There are 64 pages of trees, a lot of bushes, and all that kind of thing. And that kind of leads me to, again, you want to choose trees that are going to fit the theme and the style of golf course that you are building. I see a lot of golf courses by beginning, novice, first-time designers where they're like, hey, that's a cool-looking bush, and they plant some of those. And then, oh, well, hey, that's a pretty cool-looking tree, so let's put some of these. And, oh, this is a neat-looking tree, let's put some of those. And then it just doesn't work. So one way to narrow your trees down is we're going to hit the Y button. I'm going to go down here. You can choose this, okay, and then hit back. And, well, there's no results because we haven't put any trees yet. So this is great later on when you've chosen some trees to put on your golf course and you want to keep putting only those trees, then you would choose placed. But we're going to choose current theme. Now, these are only the trees found in that theme. All right, so you got some poplar, sycamore, big oak trees, some ash, a couple of birch trees, and then a whole bunch of bushes. Oh, you got elms. Okay, so these are nice, kind of like Midwest United States, even maybe Northeast United States, although in the Northeast you have a lot more pine, which you don't have in here. These willow trees, I have always hated them. Some people love them. I don't like the way they look. They just, I don't know, they don't look like real willow trees to me, which are really cool trees. Anywho, so take a look down in the bottom right of the screen, and you're going to see 3 meters down here. Okay, you're going to see memory, objects, and file size. File size we're not going to be too concerned with because even if you max out objects, you're not going to have the biggest file size. Memory and objects, however, are things you need to keep an eye on. So objects, obviously, is how many objects you've got on the golf course of, how many trees, bushes, grass, all of that contributes to the object meter. Some things more than others. Objects like your ball washers and benches and solid man-made objects like buildings, tractors, cars, all of that stuff that you could put, bridges. Oops, I got to get out of this. Hold on. So like all these bridges, they take up a fair amount of object meter. Even the signs, like if you want to put, you'll want to put like, for example, red stakes by water or yellow stakes by water. Buildings for sure, take up a lot of object meter. Let's see. So I'm at, we're going to use this one. I'm at 0.5. Let's say I put this for our clubhouse. Boom. That went up all the way to 1. That's like 0.5% just for this one building. So trees and grass don't take up as much, but they certainly do. So you got to kind of keep an eye on the meter. All right. So let's talk about planting trees. There's a number of ways you can do it. Let's go back to our theme trees. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, but I was talking about objects. Memory, by the way, if you're wondering what memory is affected by objects that are on your golf course in different themes. So, for example, I've got, these trees. These are all theme trees, but let's say I go in here and I start putting all kinds of other stuff from other themes. You can absolutely do that, and for the most part, you're not really restricted, but I'm going to tell you, the more different themes you use, the higher that memory is going to go. I had a golf course I designed for the last game, 2K23, where I started adding, I needed a city. I built a little city next to the golf course, and I started adding buildings from a lot of the, some of the new buildings, some of the Far East buildings, some of the, UK buildings, and I wound up maxed out on memory. So I had to delete a few different things and get a little more creative. But we're back on trees now. There are a few different ways to plant trees. You can select and then hit A, and boom, you got a tree. All right. Planting one at a time is the best way to get variety in size and shape of trees. Okay. I'm going to tell you the 2 R's that you want to absolutely always do when you're planting, and that's rotate and resize. So you use the D-pad to rotate. So here I'm rotating this tree. I can put this tree almost right next to this one, and it looks kind of like 2 different trees. Okay, D-pad also resizes up or down. So let's make this one a little smaller. Now it looks like I used 2 completely different trees. It's the same tree. So always rotate and resize when you're planting. Okay, and you can do that one at a time. That's fine. It can be very tedious. All right. There are other ways to do it. Let's say you wanted to plant a bunch of trees at the same time. So you're going to click the D-pad, not the D-pad, I beg your pardon. You're going to click the left stick, click it, and now you're in multi-object. You can see over here, multi-object on. So you're going to use the D-pad to adjust the size of the clumps of trees you want, and then you're going to use the D-pad left and right to make the density more or less. So I've got it on the highest possible size, but I've got the density very low. Now I've got the density turned all the way up, and you can plant that. Cool. All right. My issue with planting in that manner is, number one, it used to, and I'm pretty sure it still does, take up more object meter quicker, especially with large trees like that. All right. And I still do multi-plant sometimes, but I do it way off the golf course when I just need some horizon, some trees on the horizon. Okay. So that's the second way to plant trees. My favorite way to plant trees is like this. Find an area off of the golf course. So let's say, okay, I want this ash tree. Now I'm going to rotate, resize, put this ash tree. I'm going to rotate, I'm going to resize, and do this one. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to do a different tree. So we're going to do that one as is. We're going to rotate, we're going to resize, we're going to put him here. Basically what I'm doing is I'm going to make a line of trees about this big in differing sizes and orientations. Let's put a couple of birch trees. We'll do this one. We'll rotate, we'll resize, rotate, resize. And then we'll go on to this one, make him a little smaller. Let's get some elm trees in the mix. Rotate. We're getting a little close to our T there, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so a couple more elms. This is a good one. I'm going to do this one. Now, I'm not talking about sinking trees yet, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. So that's generally okay. We'll do like we'll do an oak. Nice small oak here, a nice big one here after we rotate and resize. And then one more oak tree for good measure. And we'll make this one a little smaller. Okay, so now I've got a line of trees. And I want this hole to be tree lined. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go back over to our regular, the very first tab. And I'm going to click on the left D-pad again. And that brings up area select. Oops. I'm going to area select. Make this thing a little bigger so I can get all of them. And I'm going to select them all. And then we're going to click back, go to the selected items, copy, and now paste. Boom, now I got a bunch of trees. And here's the best part. If you don't back all the way out, I'm still in this kind of screen menu. Go to select items, and you can do it again without having to reselect, which is cool as hell. But let's say I want variation. I don't want the same bunch of trees in a row. Well, you can see this selection I've got. I can now rotate that selection so it's going in the opposite direction, so it gives a little bit more variety. All right, and then I'm still here, so I can go to selective items, copy. I'm going to switch this one around. You can even move it into like a kind of different thing to hug the side of the fairway there, and boom. Now I've got trees. So as you can see, what I've done here, I've almost tree lined this entire side of the fairway, and I'm only at 1.5% now objects. All right. So that's really my preferred method. If you're making a tree-lined fairway, you want to do that. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly do some terrain painting because I like to put trees in dirt. So I'm going to choose a brush here. I like this one for my dirt. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to intensity down just a skosh. I've got some dirt out here. That looks generally okay. I don't like some of this white rock stuff in there, but it is what it is. Okay, so that looks cool, right? So let's say, all right, I want to select these trees again. I'm going to go here, area select, boom. Oh, wait, but I didn't want to select my terrain painting. That's going to look weird when I start pasting that all over the place. So let's back all the way out of there. This is one of the great features of the new designer is, see where it says manage filters right here? So click Y. I'm going to go to surface edits. We're going to select surface weathering because I don't want to select any of that weathering that we've done. And I'm going to hit X, and now it's locked. So no matter what, I can't move or select any of the surface weathering. And then we're going to go to subsoil B, which is what this dirt is. And we're going to select that with the X button. And now that is locked. I can't now, oops, no matter what I do, I can only select the trees and that stays. Okay, now one step further, what I can do is say I don't even want to see it. I can go to surface edits. I can click that X again, and now it's hidden. It's gone. It's still there, but it's hidden. Now I brought it back. So you can just toggle through those. I usually use locked. I haven't used hidden too much. Okay, I would use hidden, like say you didn't want to select something and it was really in the way of what you were trying to do. Okay, so this is a really cool feature. You can do this with any of these surfaces. You can do it with the fairways. Like say you didn't want to accidentally move any of your fairway, just lock it. And now it's unable to be edited, moved, or anything. All right, well, we don't want to do that. So anyhow, so that's your basics of planting with trees. Now, one of the things you want to do is you want to always conserve object meter. You want to conserve object meter like it's your job. So you wouldn't fill this whole area with trees, okay? Because number one, no one's ever going to be over here. No one's ever going to see it. And if this is as thick as you want to make your trees, you can do that and have it look like woods. Okay, I might make it a little thicker just to be sure, because when you have your follow cam on, you're going to be able to see a lot of that stuff. But one of the things you're going to need to do is you could see through all these trees. So now is when you want to start sinking stuff. All right, so hiding, making giant bushes, okay, is very easy to do out of trees. So here's this tree. All right, I can use the D-pad to resize, but then now I can use the left and right bumpers to sink it. And I could put that like right here. And then I'm still going to rotate and resize because I don't want it to look stupid. But now you can't really see as much through there. Okay, you could do that with bushes also. I do that a lot with the bushes. Oops, so this is way down here because I sank the other one. Make this a little bigger. Boom. Okay. Always sink the bushes. They're not as bad as they used to be, where, like, if I plant this, I don't necessarily want to see this whole, like, trunk of that thing. So I'm going to sink it a little bit. All right. One thing to keep in mind with sinking trees, all right, let's say I was in here and I'm like, well, I want to do, I'm going to do all my bushes. I'm going to sink those also so I can't see through my trees. Let's do another one over here. We're going to do this one, make him nice and big. And we're going to, let's do this one, make it nice and big. And it's sunk a little bit. And then let's do a sunken tree. Let's do this elm. We're going to sink this guy right here. So now this is a little more realistic wooded area, so you can't really see all the way through it. You've got those. But when you go to select, and you select all those, selected, copy, and I'm going to just paste it over here so you can see. All right, now it's here. But all my sunken stuff is not sunken anymore. Okay, so if you sink trees, you can't then copy and paste them somewhere else, still sank. There's a grammar lesson to be learned in there somewhere. Okay, so what I like to do, I'm going to show you down this side of the fairway. Actually, I'm going to show you down this side of the fairway how I like to plant a heavily wooded golf course. All right. I don't want that selected. So I'm going to go to terrain painting again. We're going to do dirt because I like dirt. I don't like to use the spline tool. I like to use one of the weird-looking brushes. I'm going to turn the intensity down just a little because I definitely want dirt. And I'm going to line the fairway with this. And we don't want to get too close to the bunkers. I'm just going to come up here. All right, so now I've got dirt here, and I've got some of this, topsoil kind of natural area looking thing. What do they call it? Yeah, natural area. Okay, so now I want to make a tree-lined fairway. But I can't sink objects and add them here, can I? Nope. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Objects, Nature, Trees. I'm going to get out of my main theme. I'm going to go to where I can see everything. And I'm going to go over here to Bushes. And where do they start? They start here, although this one could be. We'll start with this one. Okay, so here's a giant friggin' bush. We can make it more gianter. We're going to sink it a little bit. We're going to do that. Then we're going to resize it. We're still going to sink it a little bit. You know, resize, rotate. I'm just going to kind of put this a few places. I don't want these giant bushes too close to the area of play because once a golfer's in there, he ain't getting out. Then I'm going to choose a different one. You know, this one's a little too green for my taste, so we'll go with this one. We'll put him here. And I'm going to cover this whole area with these friggin' things. Notice I've only gone up 0.1% with what I've done here so far on the object meter. I've gone up a little bit in memory because these are from a different, quote-unquote, different theme. All right. Now I'm going to pick a third bush. Maybe this one. Or maybe this one. Let's do this one. This one looks a little different. These are great for making ground cover. Okay, I'm going to show you a golf course of mine that I'm working on currently that has got a ton of this cool stuff planted everywhere. I'm going to do this. And then uno más. One more right here. Ta-da. Boom. Okay. You could leave that as it is if you had a links course and just kind of have that over there. But what we're going to do is we want trees there. By the way, I'm going to hit save because you should always be saving. Now I'm going to go here, area select. I'm going to select, why not, all of it. Selected items, copy. We'll start at the farthest reaches of our area here. Ta-da. Actually, that kind of did the whole section, which is cool. So now I've got this. You can't really see through it too much. You know, I've got some blank spaces, which I can now fill individually with trees. And then just for good measure, and this is what I've done on my other golf course, for grass, we haven't talked about grass too much, but we're going to go nature, grass. And I go on the second page, and let's choose some grass that we're going to like. I kind of like this one. So let's do this. And we're going to make a patch of grass that we're going to use for copying and pasting. So what I do with this is I make figure eights. All right. I'm going to just be spamming that A button and moving in figure eights. Like this. And this way, yeah, look at all the empty spaces. That's okay because we're going to fill it with additional grass objects. And if you want to get some more in empty spaces, go right ahead. Okay. So there's some grass that looks, pretty terrible. I'm going to rotate this. Now I'm going to resize it so it's a little bigger. I'm going to make more grass. Same thing. I do figure eights around here. Oops, I stopped. If you stop and pause with the A button, you might get some, you're going to have to pause. Okay, that's better looking. Let's choose a different grass, maybe the leaning grass. I always liked that. I think I want this leaning grass because it's not too much. And let's do the same thing. La, 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 la. Here we go. Here we go. We're just kind of going back and forth. Okay. Again, looks okay. We've hardly added anything to our object meter. Let's rotate this guy. Make him a little bigger. You don't want to make it too big because if a player gets over there and that grass is taller than the player, it looks pretty weird. All right, so ta-da, grass. All right, so let's save before we do any more of this. And you have a lot of leeway. Again, we're only at 1.9 with all of this that we've done. So now we're going to go over here, get back to our multi-select, make this about this big, and just choose a swath of grass that's not very wide, but kind of right down the middle where you've got most variety. We're going to do this. We're going to come over here. We're going to plant this just on the outside. We go to selective items because we haven't gotten out of that screen yet. Copy. We don't have to reselect any of it. We can come back over here. Let's see, where does that end? We're rotating. We're going to kind of put that like this. Selective items, copy. I'm going to kind of come over here, see where the other one ends. Hello, where are you? Right there. Rotate. Boom. One more. And let's see, that grass kind of ends right there. Ta-da. Now, you don't fill this whole area with grass. There's no need to do it because no one's going to see it because of all this other vegetation that's in there. So you only kind of do the outside of it, and you get this. All right? And it looks like there's grass everywhere, but there's really not, and you've saved a ton of object meter. Okay? So that's some very basics of planting. I haven't gotten into some of the other things like plants, or any more with the grass or whatever. There's plants, there's stone, there's rocks. We'll get into that in another video. But right now I want to show you what I've done on another golf course that I'm working on. So here's a golf course I'm working on. From above, you can see there's a lot of trees here so far. I'm already at almost 25%. All right, I've got 4 holes done. The rest of the golf course is yet to be done. But here's what I've done. I have done exactly what I did in that video. I've got the bushes. I've got bushes of differing colors and sizes. Then I've got trees that I've copied and pasted. Here's my original tree thing, my original grass one. And then I've done grass only around the outside. And it looks pretty friggin' cool, if I don't say so myself. I haven't wasted object meter by putting grass all throughout here. I've also not wasted object meter by just bulk planting all these trees. I've terrain painted in some rock here and there, and this is probably not the final iteration of all this. I may yet do some more. But there's no point in planting some grass back here because no one's going to see it. But up here, people are going to see it. This is the second green right here. I beg your pardon, it's the third green. Okay, I've got a little natural area down here. Boy, I tell you what I would love to do is be able to make this hazard. That's something, a tool in the designer I've been wanting for so long. The main thing I want is I want a way to make this hazard without making it OB. Oscar Bravo in the middle of a golf course is no bueno. Here's number 4T. Let's see what it looks like from the tee box. Okay, looks pretty cool. Okay, you can see that grass, but that grass doesn't extend all the way up. Let's go ahead and hit the ball. I'm going to show you this. This is a cool strategy for a hole. There's a little bonus section. Okay, you can see you can see a kind of rocky coast there that I've made mostly with terrain painting, but also with, show it to you here real quick. Oops, there we go. This doesn't move fast enough for my liking, but okay, so here we go. We've got mostly terrain painting, a few rocks just to add some accent. Those are rocks for sure. These cliff walls are mostly terrain painting, just a few rocks in there. This is the view back from the green. No, that's from under the green. I'm going to change this hole a lot today, actually. But anywho, let's go ahead and hit. I'm going to show you the strategy of this hole real quick. This bunker, not 100% in play unless you decide to take 3 wood, which is the best play off this tee. That also brings that bunker into play. But let's say I go ahead and hit driver. And I hit a pretty good ball right down the center. And now it is going to just roll out for a year and a half. And now I'm here. But now, maybe not for this whole location, but the ones that are over there, these very deep bunkers are in play. All right. So let's say I hit 3 wood instead. So 3 wood instead. Yeah, it's not quite as long, but it's still going to be 300 yards. Okay, leaving me 219, but now I'm right at the center of the green. Unless I hit something way to the right, these bunkers are not in play. Or if I pull the hell out of it, it's just going to be way over there. Let's see if I can hit a better shot than that. But this is a par 5, by the way. A very short par 5 that guys are going to be very interested in hitting into. This is a definite eagle opportunity. That's what happens if you do that. So, anywho, this has been the first look at planting. We've talked about planting in terms of mostly trees, grass, and bushes. Okay, and I've shown you a very basic, easy way to get something that looks kind of like this. This took a while. Trust me, I've put in probably 6 or 7 hours into this golf course, maybe even more, over the course of 4 or 5 days. It took a lot of work. I've done, some polishing already on some of these holes. We've talked about you can single plant trees, you can bulk plant trees, or you can copy and paste trees. Copy and pasting, except for the fact that you can't sync trees and copy and paste them. Copy and pasting is the best way to get a good variety in horizon look. You've got some trees higher than others, things like that. And you've got a pretty decent variety. Some of this is a little repetitive, and I may look at that later. But, okay, so that's your basics of planting to get started. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please drop a like. I would appreciate it. Part 2 of planting is going to be soon. We're going to talk about other objects besides trees. We're going to talk about, plants, more bushes, more grass. And we're going to talk about things like, we're going to talk about cart path. I put that in with planting. We're going to talk about some of the other man-made objects like clubhouses and, residential houses and buildings and all that kind of good stuff. So I hope this helped. Take it easy, and I'm going to see you next time.